Our loner MC never imagined that even cheat codes for a fantasy world would be first come, first served. All the OP skills were snatched up by his classmates, leaving him with nothing but leftover trash to start his journey in another world. Just 2.5 minutes ago, he was napping at his desk when a magic circle suddenly appeared. Being an Isekai fan, he knew exactly what was happening. It was time to get transported. But after getting hyped for exactly 2.5 seconds, he immediately cooled off. To him, reading novels on Earth sounded way better than actually living in one. He tried to bail, but the classroom door was locked tight by some mysterious force. Kicking and smashing it with chairs did absolutely nothing. As the magic circle glowed brighter, he had a big brain moment and climbed up onto the ceiling. Sadly, that didn't save him. By the time he snapped out of it, he was already standing in a world of pure white. No prizes for guessing this was definitely a god's domain. Just as he was wondering where everyone went, a weird-looking old man appeared nearby. Seeing him all alone, the old man rushed over in a panic. Turns out he's the god of this other world, and he was shocked to see our guy still hanging around. Everyone else had already left for the other world. God told him to hurry up and pick his stats and skills before the transfer. Suddenly, a massive stone tablet rose up right in front of him. Normally, everyone gets 50 points to spend on different skills in magic. It's basically a welcome gift from God. But since our guy was late, all the OP skills were already taken by his classmates. All that was left were some trash support skills that looked incredibly mid. This was a massive headache. He stared at the few remaining options, feeling totally stuck. Was his Isekai adventure over before it even started? Just because he was late, everything left was literal garbage. There were plenty of options, but they were all useless. Like, who wants a skill to roll dice for stat points? The gear was even worse, villager starter set and contact lenses. Just the names sounded pathetic. It was honestly insulting. Anyone who's read a light novel knows the drill. You want to be a paladin or a great sage, right? But for physical skills, the only thing left was cane arts. What was he supposed to go around beating monsters with a walking stick? He was speechless. How is a cane supposed to help him survive? Even things like good health and walking were listed as skills. He'd be dead in 5 minutes with those. The magic section was just as bad. The 4 basic elements were already gone. All that was left were weak skills like temperature control and movement. To top it off, there were even skills for office workers. He hasn't even finished high school, and now he's going to be a corporate slave in another world. No matter how he looked at it, none of these skills were worth a damn. He looked totally disgusted. God, having run out of patience, snapped. Fine, if you're going to be like that, just take them all. The old man was fed up with his complaining. In a fit of rage, he shoved every single remaining skill onto our MC. Then he warped him away. Just like that, a tidal wave of garbage skills flooded into his body. And so, armed with a pile of junk, he began his life in another world on hell mode. To make matters worse, he spawned right in the middle of a massive forest. Not even a starter village in sight. This was basically a death sentence. He was totally unprepared. Then he spotted a bag on the ground. It was that villager set he had looked down on. When he opened it, he realized the bag was actually an infinite storage pouch. It had those contact lenses and other starter gear, clearly the stuff no one else wanted. Well, better than nothing, right? After gearing up, he decided to check his status screen. But when he opened the menu, the system told him he had to roll the dice first. Turns out his stats were literally up to a roll of the dice. He was beyond pissed at this point. He was basically God's personal dumpster diver. But he had no choice. If he wanted to survive, he had to roll. But instead of numbers, he rolled 2 giant M's. Immediately, some pretty questionable images popped into his head. Was he really going to turn into that kind of person the second he arrived? Luckily, the system was being serious and let him choose which stat to buff. After a moment, he went with luck. Because let's be real, life is way easier when you're lucky. After spending the points, his status screen finally popped up. It showed his name Haruka. That's when he realized the M on the dice stood for max. So his luck was literally off the charts, but his other stats? Well, they were pretty pathetic. Then he noticed a very unique skill, Loner. Since he was summoned solo, he can't join a party. On the flip side, he can get companions through taming and subjugation. For our guy, this was honestly just the icing on the cake. I mean, before he got summoned to this world, he was basically a total loner in class. He didn't fit into any of the cliques. Instead of trying to suck up to those people, he figured his time was better spent getting lost in a couple of novels. Too bad that thanks to this specific skill, he's pretty much kissed any chance of building an isekai harem goodbye. Right now, his top priority is finding a safe spot to set up a base, a place he can finally call home. So he starts scouting the forest, but the visibility in there is absolutely terrible. It's nothing like the convenient descriptions you read in novels. If he bumps into a magic beast here, he's in serious trouble. Then he suddenly remembers his contact lenses. The second he puts them on, the names and functions of everything in sight start popping up right before his eyes. Beside himself with shock, he's also dying to know exactly how these things even work. After checking the system, it turns out those lenses actually have the power of appraisal. With this new cheat in hand, his search becomes a total breeze. It doesn't take long before he spots some edible mushrooms. And since he has spatial storage, it doesn't matter how much food he finds. He can lug it all back without breaking a sweat. A little while later, he stumbles across a small stream. After helping himself to a nice long drink, he finds an empty cave nearby. It's the perfect spot for a base. Luckily, he's still got a tent and a lantern in his item bag, so he decides right then and there to bunk down for the night. Sitting by the campfire that night, he starts thinking that maybe these trash skills aren't so bad after all. He's probably just wiped from the day's work because he starts drifting off almost immediately. He was a little worried about magic beasts showing up while he was catching some Z's. But in less than 2.5 seconds, he's already out like a light. Fortunately, the night goes off without a hitch. That's thanks to the warding effect of his items and his shut-in title. That title actually keeps him safe from any danger, as long as he's at home. The first thing he does after waking up is whip himself up a gourmet breakfast. Don't even ask where he got the cookware. It came right out of that villager starter set. It might not have any overpowered weapons, but man, for wilderness survival, it's top tier. Once he's full and satisfied, it's time to start planning his next move. He plans to stick to the cave for now, which means food is going to be his #1 priority. Of course, he's also got to keep an eye out for any magic beasts. Just as he's thinking that the system detects a strange presence nearby. Peeking out from the tall grass, he spots 2 small goblins. They aren't exactly huge, but their stats are surprisingly high. He's a little shook at first, but then he realizes he's got to face these things sooner or later. If he can't even take down a simple goblin, he might as well give up on surviving right now. So he uses armament magic to wrap his mana around a wooden stick. Once he's ready, he lunges out fast as lightning and knocks one of the goblins out cold with a single swing. The other goblin notices him, but its movements are super sluggish and its attacks are way too predictable. He spots an opening immediately and takes them both out. By the time he's done, evening is already rolling in. Winning his first real fight gives his confidence a massive boost. Back at the cave, he treats himself to a grilled mushroom feast. When he checks his status window, he sees that his level and attributes have already gone up. Feeling a lot stronger, he starts grinding his skills while picking fights with more goblins. By now, he doesn't even need to rely on sneak attacks. He can handle 2 goblins at once without even breaking a sweat. But if he sees 3 of them grouped together, he still plays it safe and takes the long way around. Over the next few days, he spends his sunlight hours fighting goblins and his nights researching magic. Well, to be more accurate, he's basically just playing a base building game. By the 5th day, he can finally one-shot a goblin. His cave is looking pretty fancy too. His new life is finally starting to feel normal. Since his stats have improved, he's not just stuck eating mushrooms anymore. He starts hunting wild animals in the forest. He finally manages to snag a big white rabbit, but just as he's about to head back and cook it up, he feels a strange vibe in the air. Taking a closer look, he realizes it's his classmates who were also summoned here. Specifically, the group of delinquents he wants absolutely nothing to do with. He's ready to slip away quietly, but something tells him there are other classmates around. He activates his clairvoyance, and even more classmates come into view. There's the group of popular girls, the jocks, and of course the good students led by the class rep. Out of everyone there, she's the one person he actually wants to see. Since he and the class rep are childhood friends, he figures that teaming up with her is probably his best bet. But before he can even take a few steps, he hesitates. He starts to think that maybe, just maybe, this solo life is actually the one that suits him best. This sense of freedom and isolation, it's perfect for a loner like me. Whoa! The kid never imagined that the worst thugs from his class would bring their proud traditions into a whole new world. Not only did they pick the sleaziest charm skills imaginable, but they're actually preying on their own classmates. One guy got a puppet skill, and now he wants to claim all the girls in class for his own personal harem. Just a bit ago, our lead found his classmates teleported into the forest. But as a total loner, he has zero intention of grouping up with them. After all, tackling another world solo is the only way to fly. Just as he's about to bail, he notices the group of delinquents heading straight toward his spot. Since there's no time to run, he dives headfirst into the bushes. But the sound still gives him away. Just as the blonde leader is about to sniff him out, that rabbit the MC caught earlier suddenly bolts from the grass. Seeing it's just a forest bunny, the guys let their guard down and move on. The thugs are chatting down by the river, and curiosity gets the best of the MC, so he sneaks behind a tree to listen in. He can't believe that even in another world, these guys' heads are still filled with nothing but trashy thoughts, especially when they start raiding the girls' bodies. The blonde leader. The other guys had their own targets they were eyeing too. Our MC overheard them talking trash about the girls, but he didn't really pay it any mind. After all, the class president would definitely put a stop to that. She's the delinquent's worst nightmare. But just then, he overheard something unexpected. That blonde punk pulled a guy named Tanaka aside and asked if he could use his skill to basically have his way with those girls. Once he got a yes, the blonde guy and his crew were absolutely stoked. Our hero didn't really dwell on their conversation. Seeing the delinquents head out, he just decided to head back to his own spot. But the moment he got back, he realized his loner skill had actually leveled up. Even though he'd already decided to play this world solo, this feeling of drifting further away from everyone else still stung a little. Even with the level up, his overall level was still stuck at level 3. It was probably because of those two skills, good for nothing and the dummy. That good for nothing skill makes it impossible for the user to focus on one thing, meaning they'll never amount to anything. As for the dummy, it basically treats him like a puppet. To put it bluntly, they're both totally useless skills. At this point, the only way for him to blow off some steam was to eat. Too bad today's hunt was a total bust, so he was back to eating mushrooms again. This went on until the 7th night when the sounds of a struggle echoed through the forest. The noise was keeping him wide awake, so he went out to see what was going on. He found the Class Geek Squad in the middle of a showdown with some goblins. As someone with a bit of Isekai experience, he felt a bit bad seeing them struggle so much. But looking closer, he realized the joke was actually on him. Every single one of them had a unique class, not to mention those broken cheat tier skills. A bottom tier guy like him couldn't even compare. But honestly, it's because all these little cliques in class have their own special strengths. Some are top tier athletes, and others are the kids of high profile celebrities. You could say his loner title was well earned. Since these guys were all nerds, they definitely watched enough anime to know the ropes. He figured he didn't need to worry about them, and was about to head out when the system suddenly flagged a major threat. He spotted 2 goblins sneaking up on them from behind. If that sneak attack landed, those geeks were going to be dead meat. Even though our guy wants to stay a loner, he remembers how these otaku guys used to be pretty chill, and even lent him some light novels back in class. So he can't just leave them hanging. He decides to step in and give them a hand. Once the MC finishes his fight, the otaku squad manages to take down the goblins too. They never expected to run into him way out here in the middle of nowhere. Right after that, the MC leads them back to his secret base. When they see this insanely decked out cave, those otaku guys are green with envy. They can't believe he's been living the high life all by himself while they were struggling. Then the MC asks about the rest of the class, wondering why on earth they're wandering around outside so late at night. Turns out the otaku squad is actually on the run. The whole mess started back when everyone first arrived in the forest. It all happened so fast that nobody was ready for it. Most of the class just completely freaked out. Some were crying, others were screaming for their parents. Only the otaku guys stayed chill, already busy researching their own skills. Right then, the class rep stepped up trying to get everyone to chill out. But out of nowhere, a massive swarm of goblins showed up. Even the rep was paralyzed with fear. And the girls in class, they were losing it, screaming their heads off. Those delinquents were even more useless, falling flat on their butts in terror. But right then, the nerds stepped up like they were the freaking saviors of the world. Seeing they were just a bunch of weak goblins, they wasted no time and went on the attack. Everyone was pumped up by the nerds' bravery. Even the jocks jumped into the fray, and they finally wiped out every last goblin. After that, just to be safe, everyone moved out. They found a secure spot by the river and started setting up a temporary camp. Everyone started helping each other out, and things were finally starting to look up. But of course, not everyone was playing nice, especially those delinquents and the mean girls clique. These guys didn't want to do a lick of work. It was a classic case of a few bad apples spoiling the whole bunch, and before long, the whole group started falling apart. In the end, it was just the class rep, the nerd squad, and a handful of students actually doing anything. The nerds even took on all the guard duty against goblins, mostly because they didn't trust those delinquents as far as they could throw them. See, back when they were picking skills, the nerds noticed those thugs chose charm and puppetry. The nerds knew they had to grind and level up if they wanted to keep everyone safe. But little did they know, while they were training, those delinquents were secretly plotting and leveling up too. Except the nerd squad ended up overhearing every single word those punks said. Their disgusting little plan was out in the open. The guys immediately reported everything to the class rep, and things got real serious real fast. She knew she couldn't just sit around, so the rep made up her mind to go out and level up herself. But a few days later, Those thugs actually managed to unlock their puppetry and charm skills. Just then, the rep happened to walk by, and they had these creepy looks on their faces, ready to pounce on her. "Who gives a damn about you? You're just a fat pig. Look at my charm skill." But a second later, the rep completely wiped the floor with them. Then the nerd squad used a sealing skill to lock away their charm and puppetry for good. Their pathetic harem master plan was officially dead. Once their dirty secrets were out, the delinquents were kicked out and banished from the camp for good. Everyone thought that was the end of it, but those punks came back for revenge sooner than expected. They started attacking everyone left and right and even torched all the tents. After trashing the place, they just took off. Since the camp was ruined, everyone started pointing fingers and blaming the nerd squad for everything. The mean girls were the worst of the bunch, claiming it was only because the nerds were showing off that the delinquents targeted them in the first place. Only the class reps stood up for them, but the nerds felt so guilty that they decided to leave the camp on their own. Hearing their story, our guy was seriously touched. To reward them, he pulled out a mountain of mushrooms. He might be short on a lot of things right now, but he definitely had mushrooms for days. The nerd squad finally got to eat their fill for the first time in forever. The next morning, he gave them even more mushrooms so they'd have plenty of supplies for their journey. The guys actually invited him to come along, since they were planning to follow the river all the way to a town. He was their classmate after all, and they figured they should stick together. But by this point, our hero had already made up his mind to be a total loner. So he gave them a super cool rejection. The nerds were honestly blown away by just how badass he looked in that moment. In the end, they had to leave without him. Once they were gone, he decided to go check on how the other students were holding up. On the way, he got jumped by a wild dog and even got a nasty bite on his arm. He couldn't help but wonder if they even had rabies shots in this fantasy world. He kept walking until nightfall, and finally made it back to the old campsite. But the place was a ghost town. Nobody was there. Following his skill's guidance, he crossed the river, and who should he run into but the mean girls' clique? He tried to bolt, but they spotted him first. The girls were aggressive and started chasing him down. He didn't want to look back, but then he heard them begging him to stop. After talking to them, it turned out these girls were actually looking for the nerd squad. Since they knew he was tight with the nerds, they wanted to see if he had any info. But he wasn't about to just give up their location that easily. To his surprise, it turned out the girls just wanted to apologize to them. They finally realized they'd been living under the nerds' protection the whole time. A plot twist like that. Back on Earth, our guy wouldn't have believed it in a million years. Even so, he still wasn't ready to tell them where the guys had gone. To get them to give up, he had to be a bit harsh with his words. He didn't expect it to hit them that hard, but it seemed to really break their hearts. They actually started sobbing, crying about how they just wanted to say they were sorry. At this point, our guy was completely lost. This was definitely not how he expected the story to go. On top of that, they begged him to teach them how to survive in the wild and fight monsters until they could find the nerd squad again. Because of a totally weird request, the MC's tame skill actually ended up activating. Now, our guy is even more confused. How did he suddenly end up with 3 hot popular girls as his loyal underlings? For a while after that, the hottie squad just followed him everywhere. Honestly, the effect of this tame skill is pretty insane. They're like literal puppets' eyes, all hollow and zero logic left. They just follow the MC wherever he goes. They'll do whatever he tells them to, just following their most basic instincts. Even when they're hurt, they don't even think to use a potion. The MC is losing it. If the class rep saw this, she'd absolutely tear him a new one. He sits there sulking in the corner, imagining the lecture the class rep would give him. But talk about perfect timing. Speak of the devil, the class rep actually shows up and starts calling his name for what feels like forever. The MC was so focused on his own thoughts that he didn't hear a thing. He nearly jumped out of his skin when she finally yelled at him. Meanwhile, the delinquent gang spending the night in the forest is already plotting their next move. Our MC never expected that right after turning the popular girls into servants, he'd get busted by his childhood friend, the class rep. And it's not just her, all the girls from class showed up. The class rep notices the hotties are acting weird and gives the MC a total, I see what you're doing look. Man, the MC is stuck. No matter what he says, he looks guilty, so he just comes clean. It was supposed to be a skill for monsters, but it somehow worked on the girls. The girls are giving him looks cold enough to freeze water. Like, does one of them have ice magic or something? He's got no defense, so he tries to make a run for it. But the girls aren't about to let him off that easy. Then the class rep tries to snap the hotties out of it, and surprisingly, it actually works. She decides to get the story straight from them, and tells the MC to stay right where he is. Our guy feels totally misunderstood, because ever since he tamed the group, he realized just how terrifying they really are. Every day, he's either being bossed around by them or dragged along on some random trip. Not to mention the class rep, who's basically the boss of the delinquents, is right here too. The MC is too scared to even move. He's just worried. Is he gonna get beaten into a literal slime? While the girls are discussing what to do next, the MC gets bored and starts messing with his skills. He ends up burying himself in the dirt, looking like he's ready to meet his ancestors. The class rep can't believe he has such a weird hobby and just pulls him straight out of the ground. For the first time, our guy feels small and totally helpless. After talking it over, the girls ask him how many people his place can actually hold. He thinks for a second and says it can fit 240 people. When the girls hear that, their whole reality just shatters. Like, you only got to this world a few hours before us? How are you as rich as the locals? So they ask if they can stay at his place for a bit. With all these high school girls staying over, the MC is already imagining how many kids they're gonna have. Suddenly, he's feeling pretty tense. How is he supposed to handle all this? If the class rep wasn't standing right there watching him, he'd probably be stripping down right now. Anyway, the girls follow him back to his cave. When they see this place, which looks like a modern luxury villa, every single girl gets super hyped. They just start stripping off all their clothes, laughing and charging straight 9. I'm home, watching those clothes drop right in. All the girls in the class are taking a bath together, and our guy is completely losing his mind. How did he get this lucky? Even when he's in bed later that night, his imagination is running wild. Being surrounded by this many girls is something most people could only dream of. He's tossing and turning his head, filled with images of them in the water. This whole life feels like one big, beautiful dream. But can he really keep them safe forever? The pressure starts to weigh on him, even though everything seems perfect for now. Still, he really treasures his own space. For the first time, he feels what it's like to actually be part of the group instead of an outcast, and it's pure bliss. Just then, the class rep shows up at his tent to thank him. If it wasn't for him, these girls would be totally lost. Ever since that group of nerds bailed on the camp, the girls have been struggling just to get by. They didn't even know where their next meal was coming from. They never expected to find a place this comfortable. We're talking luxury rooms, a full kitchen to cook in, and even a hot bath. It's a total morale booster. Seeing him do so well makes the class rep feel like she's doing a terrible job. Not only did she fail to keep the class together, but everything is falling apart. He tries to comfort her, telling her she's actually doing great. After all, she protected so many girls today. But she's still hard on herself, feeling like she can't adapt to this world as fast as those otaku guys did. He tells her that's not true. Those guys spent all their time with light novels and manga. They've been mentally preparing for an isekai world their whole lives. She doesn't spend all day reading that stuff, so it's natural for her to feel lost. But his words don't exactly make her feel better. On the contrary, he felt that talking that way was just way too mean to the Geek Squad. Our MC didn't give a damn about that. In his eyes, the class rep was the absolute GOAT. Thanks to his comforting words, she felt a whole lot better. She keeps praising him for providing such a good life. Looking at her cute expression, our guy can barely keep his physical reactions under control. That night, sleep was impossible. His mind was... The girl asks him to escort her home, promising a sweet reward for his trouble. The second he hears there's a payoff, he's totally down for the job. While they're riding along, Mariel asks him where he actually came from. But the guy can't even remember the name of the town and just keeps complaining about the whole situation. Then this girl in a school uniform leans in, getting right in his face. He realizes there's no way he can get up right now, or his little friend downstairs is going to end up way too close to her face. But hey, the craving for fish totally won out over those naughty thoughts. The second she heard it was fish for breakfast, she didn't even hesitate. She just bolted right out of bed, crying her eyes out while stuffing her face with fish. Honestly, this is nothing short of a godsend. The class rep and the purple-haired girl were totally speechless. I mean, who actually cries just by looking at a fish? Only our guy knows this kind of pain. Every single day, he's stuck eating mushrooms while staring at the fish in the river and sobbing. Do you even know how soul-crushing it is to come home empty-handed every single time? Seeing him looking so pathetic, the class rep actually started to feel a little bit bad for him. So she basically pulls out a cheat code. It was a first for the fish, getting absolutely blasted by lightning magic like that, and she caught them all in one shot. Watching her use such insane magic, our main man was seriously dying of jealousy. He asks his classmate for another demo. Then, while they're showing off, he uses his package magic to bag up the lightning and successfully snagged those fish from the river. Just like that, this guy's learned lightning magic too, leaving the class rep totally floored. Wait, how do you even know that move? Once our lead explains he just used his package magic, they both can't help but think he's straight up using a cheat code. Even so, he's trying to play it cool, mostly because he's pretty shocked himself. It was actually his first time ever trying that. Did you finally remember your past? Or are you just some kind of chosen one? Afterwards, he asks the class rep what the plan is. When he hears they want to hit the town to level up, he figures that's a solid move. Going to the city is definitely the way to go, especially since the gal squad brought it up before. They're looking to hunt down the geek squad in town, so to help the girls succeed, he starts a little crash course. But when he checks their stats, he sees their levels are terrifyingly high. The weakest one is level 16. Like, what is he even supposed to teach them? He's only level 7 himself. Pretty much anyone there could wipe the floor with him if they wanted to. But these cheat tier players have no clue how OP they actually are. They keep nagging him to start the tutorial. They really don't know how good they have it. To get them some experience points, he tells the girls to try taking down the kobolds in the forest first. Keep in mind, these kobolds are as dumb as they are cute, and they're only level 3. With levels like theirs, it should have been a total walk in the park for these girls. They were so confident, but catch this before even 2.5 minutes passed. Every single one of them got wrecked. Our guy is just speechless. How can they be this bad? The girls start complaining, saying they had no idea kobolds would actually bite people. Now he's just depressed, like kobolds wouldn't bite seriously. What do I have to be your personal bodyguard too? After a quick tactical review in the tent, they're all fired up and ready to hunt again. Their skills might be trash, but hey, at least they've got the spirit. Right about then, that purple-haired girl who woke him up this morning suddenly comes over to apologize. Because she was attacked by some punks before she's been terrified of guys, which explains her attitude. But now she says she's not scared of him anymore. Since he gave them a place to stay and taught them how to fight, she decides she's going to make him a killer breakfast first thing tomorrow morning. If this guy wasn't such a loner, he'd definitely be starting a total Isekai harem by now. Too bad for him, the only thing waiting is grilled fish, not a single girl in sight. Early the next morning, these reckless idiots actually tried to head out and hunt monsters. Luckily, the class rep stopped them just in time and decided they needed to start with the basics. With our main guy and the class rep leading the way, the gal squad's special training finally kicked off. But honestly, those kobolds were a bit tougher than the girls. Plus, these gals started getting sleepy the second the fighting started. Some even tried faking sick on the spot. How are they supposed to fight like that? But the kobolds didn't care if they were sick or not. They just launched a full-on assault. Right then, the purple-haired girl was the first to charge in. Then the leader of this gal squad stepped up. Everyone started giving it their all, and the battle got pretty intense. Thanks to the girls working together, they finally managed to take down the kobolds. The class rep was stoked when she saw that. But get this, the crazy part was that even those kobolds had been taken prisoner. They were actually shaking hands with the It Girls group. These girls have some wild ideas. They're even talking about fully taming the beasts. After all that intense training lately, our guy was absolutely spent. He just collapsed right there on the dirt. Seeing him like that, the class rep felt super grateful. She asked him to head to town with her. Now he'd rather just fly under the radar as a loner, but since it was a direct request from the class rep, he couldn't exactly say no, right? So the girls got everything ready and packed up a huge haul of fresh mushrooms. The whole crew headed out of camp lugging that giant bag of mushrooms as they made tracks for the town. And so the journey began. Everyone seemed so carefree that our MC didn't want to be a buzzkill and ruin the mood. He just gave the class rep a pep talk saying they'd make it to town together. Let's go 98. But wait. That very night, a few of the guys from class were being ambushed by some mysterious figure. To make sure the girls didn't get jumped by that group of delinquents, our lead decided to escort them through the forest. Along the way, they ran smack into a massive great boar monster. Being the resident pro hunter, he naturally stepped up to the front. He told the girls to watch his every move so they could learn a thing or two about fighting. The boar slammed its massive hammer down, but it didn't hit a single thing. Our guy was already chilling behind a tree, mocking how slow the beast was. See, the otaku squad had already tipped him off that these boars have crazy high defense. But their magic resistance totally mid. You have to blast them with concentrated magic just to stand a chance. He wasn't about to be an idiot and try to tank it head on, so he stayed hidden while scrolling through his skill list for some magic to use. Usually, magic is split into fire, earth, water, and wind. But on his system screen, all 4 elements were somehow mashed into one single category. The only thing he was missing was fire magic. Everything else totally thanks to his cheat abilities. He'd basically jacked them all using copy magic. Just as he was thinking even trash skills can be OP. A massive hammer flew right over his head, snapping the tree behind him. Clean in half, this boar was playing dirty with a sneak attack. Luckily, his reflexes were on point and he dodged the whole thing. But that cheap shot really ticked him off. He blinked right above the boar's head, But then thud, the monster just keeled over dead. Even he didn't see that coming. He could feel the girls staring at him with total disappointment. He scrambled to explain, promising that next time he'd actually follow the Otaku Squad's intel to make it a real lesson. It didn't take long before they hit another boar. This time, he made sure not to skip the demonstration part. A ball of fire flickered in his palm. He'd actually figured this out by tweaking his temperature magic until it became fire. He just casually tossed it at the boar's head, and poof, it was toast. Our guy was just stood there like, "Are you kidding me? I thought these things were supposed to be tanky. I barely did anything, and it's dead." The girls behind him started whining, saying there was zero technique to watch and nothing they could actually learn from that. All he could do was give a sheepish laugh. By nightfall, the girls were all huddling up enjoying a nice campfire BBQ. Meanwhile, our guy was off in the corner setting up traps with his earth magic. Between those and the tent's built-in defense and monster repelling system, the girls were totally safe. He checked his system menu again and noticed his appraisal skill had leveled up into a map function. Talk about a travel essential. But just as he was mapping out their next move, the system suddenly started blaring a warning. Right after that, a few shadows appeared in the distance. Thinking it was the delinquent gang, he tensed up and kept a close eye on them. Once they got closer, he realized it was just the Meathead Squad. He let out a sigh of relief. Those guys were way too simple-minded to be trouble. Just then, the class rep walked over to join them. He figured the jocks were there for the girls, but it turns out they were actually looking for him. He couldn't help but wonder, are these guys all buff on the outside but soft on the inside? He was pretty curious, though. Why didn't they want to show their faces in front of the girls? The guys started stammering, admitting that they just couldn't bring themselves to trust anyone right now. Apparently someone has a skill called Snatch, and it's way scarier than stuff like Charm or Puppet Master. The delinquent crowd was all hyped about their charm and puppet skills, but they never mentioned this one. That means someone else is holding that trump card. Hearing that, our guy flashed them his best villainous grin and asked, "Well, what if I'm the one who has that skill?" But to his surprise, they just said that if it was him, they'd actually feel a whole lot safer. He suddenly felt like the joke had fallen flat. Honestly, in a dog-eat-dog world like this, that kind of unconditional trust is just a massive headache. "You guys are honestly hopeless," he sighed. The Meathead Squad then told him to stay sharp. They were heading deeper into the forest to keep tabs on the delinquents, leaving the class rep and the others in his hands. He just watched them fade into the distance. Our guy couldn't help but mess with them one last time, telling them to go find some goblins if they run into trouble. I mean, birds of a feather flock together, right? Bright and early the next morning, the girls were already geared up for some action in the woods. Our boy was honestly a little stunned, like, who's this hyped up at the crack of dawn? Did they munch on some weird mushrooms or something? Just as he was getting ready to scout ahead, the class rep caught up to him. Turns out she'd overheard everything he said to the jock squad the night before. Out of nowhere, she just bows and says, "I'm so sorry." She apologized for the misunderstanding and called out to Haruka. Hearing him talk last night really struck a chord with her. She insisted on thanking him no matter what. Our MC saw right through it, but the class rep was confused. Why wasn't he even a little bit creeped out by her? I mean, think about it. Her skill taker ability literally steals someone's life along with their powers. It's a pretty terrifying skill to have. Most people would be shaking in their boots, but our guy didn't have a care in the world. If anyone else had that power, they'd probably be out there causing chaos. But the class rep, she's too kind and well, a bit of a ditz to ever do anything bad. Plus, back with the otaku group, they sealed the thug's skills but left hers alone. That's because they actually trusted her. That almost moved her to tears. Our boy tried to crack a joke to lighten the mood, but her intense, sincere gaze actually made him back off for once. After trekking for quite a while, the group finally decided to take a breather. Our MC saw his chance to show off again, pulling out a box and claiming he was selling fresh juice. But hey, nothing's free in this world. Since they didn't have any cash, he suggested they pay with, well, some visual favors. He was busy getting an eyeful while some of the girls were cooling off, but one sharp glare from the class rep sent a chill straight down his spine. After a quick recharge, they got back on the move. Everyone was pretty much exhausted and parched by then, so it was a huge relief when our boy spotted a river nearby. He remembered a new skill he wanted to test out, so he shooed the class rep away and bolted toward the water. Once he was sure no one was watching, he activated his mana wrap to coat his body and used magic to make himself light as a feather. And just like that, zoom, he launched himself straight into the clouds. Whoa, what do I do now? I'm gonna go splat. Somebody help Bugs see? He remembered how to fly up, but completely forgot the part about coming back down safely. After basically doing the breaststroke in midair for 2.5 seconds, he started plummeting toward the ground. If he hadn't buffed his body with magic, his health bar would have been totally wiped out. When they got back to camp that night, the class rep was absolutely speechless. She couldn't wrap her head around how a simple scouting trip turned him into a total mess. He tried to play it off with some lame excuse, but that didn't stop her from giving him a piece of her mind. He even tried to bribe her with some fruit he'd picked, but she wasn't buying it. The fruit did attract the other girls, though. Thanks to his scouting the day before, their journey was actually pretty smooth. They helped a lost kid find their mom. He got a sneak peek at the girls playing in the water, and they even fended off a wild boar attack. After all that drama, the group finally made it out of the forest. Seeing those wide-open plains had all the girls cheering with joy. But our guy didn't let his guard down for a second. In this world, danger is always lurking around the corner. He pulled up his system interface again and realized he'd actually learned a new move called airwalk. Turns out this skill lets him literally stroll through the air like it's solid ground. Whoa, big brother. You're amazing. Seeing him floating up there scared the class rep half to death, and she went right back into nagging mom mode. He used his clairvoyance to scan the area and actually spotted some of the locals from this world. It looked like they were being ambushed by monsters. When he told the class rep her first instinct was that they had to go save them. But our boy immediately shut down that naive way of thinking. I mean, who knows if those people are even good? If they're bandits or something, the girls would be in serious trouble. He was ready to just walk away, but then the class rep grabbed his arm. Her reaction was exactly what he expected. He didn't argue further and decided to handle it himself. After all, dealing with messes like this is exactly why he tagged along in the first place. Now it was time for our MC to really show off. He got ready to stack those combo skills from yesterday. As the effects kicked in, he started floating gracefully into the air. But this time, he added some wind magic to the mix to really boost his speed. Just when our guy is patting himself on the back for being so clever, he realizes the class rep is literally clinging to his back. Turns out that wind magic he just used swept her up too. She's screaming at him to stop, but unfortunately this move is all about the takeoff and has zero plan for a safe landing. And just like that, our MC takes the class rep on a one-way flight to a crash landing in this parallel world. The locals there were totally speechless, just staring at this sudden human bombardment from the sky. Even the monsters were insta-killed by the impact of our MC and the class rep. Thanks to him, these people actually made it out alive. Afterwards, the captain often explains that they're adventurers from the guild. They were on a mission to escort some goods. They thought they were going to make a killing, but now their carriage is flipped upside down. Their cargo is scattered all over the place. It's a total disaster for them. Since the other girls haven't caught up yet, and the class rep is still unconscious, our MC decides to play nice and get on their good side. He breaks out his specialty grilled mushrooms. A team member named Gatak is absolutely floored after one bite. He can't believe our guy eats this well every day. Turns out these are rare stamina mushrooms. Once the rest of the crew finishes eating, they're all charged up and feeling completely refreshed. Soon enough, the class rep wakes up too, but the second she opens her eyes, she sees our MC in full attack mode. He's super annoyed seeing two middle-aged dudes teamed up with a cute girl. Not long after the rest of the girls catch up. They walk with the squad for a bit until they finally see it the city they've been dreaming of. To commemorate this historic moment, they all hold hands, and honestly, they're so hyped they can't stop moving. Meanwhile, back in the forest, the delinquent squad has no idea the girls have already made it to town. They've finally finished leveling up and can't wait to go find the girls to have a little fun. But before that, they plan to take out the otaku group to break the magic seals on the charms and puppets. Little do they know, the Musclehead squad is hiding behind the trees, listening to their evil plan with nervous looks on their faces. After one adventure after another, our MC finally manages to get all the girls safely to the city. Seeing all the people and the exotic vibes of the town, the girls are in a great mood. Sadly, because of his loner trait, our MC feels like a total fish out of water here. But hey, mission accomplished. He was planning to head back to the forest and get back to his quiet, boring life. Too bad reality hits hard. With the class rep around, he can't just slip away. Even trying to sneak a moment of relaxation feels like a pipe dream. She gives him a piece of her mind and literally blows the whistle on him. After days of her training, all the girls have become as obedient as loyal pups. They all assemble in exactly 2.5 seconds. Then the class rep lays out the itinerary. First, stop the Adventurers Guild to trade in their loot for some cold hard cash. After that, they'll register as adventurers, and finally hit up an inn to rest. She also mentions they should look for info on the otaku group while they're at it. The Giru squad isn't happy about that. How could she treat finding the guys like an afterthought? Seeing how nervous she is, our MC swoops in for the gossip. He teases her with a smirk, leaving the poor girl looking super embarrassed. Soon the group arrives at the Adventurers Guild. But the adventurers inside look terrifying, and they're all giving our MC the death stare. Just then, Ofta tells our guy to come with him to meet the guildmaster. Even if he's walking into a lion's den, he's got no choice. He tells the class rep to get the girls registered, while he heads up to the second floor alone. The redhead he saved earlier is already waiting outside the office. She seems like the only friendly person in the whole place. The guildmaster is way scarier. The guy is covered in scars. Our MC thinks he's about to get kicked out. But the next second, the master's attitude pulls a complete 180-degree turn. Our guy is totally confused. He was just radiating murderous intent, and now it's like an awards ceremony. Well, it's better than getting beat up. He rushes back downstairs and spots the trading window. He goes over to sell his mana stones. The girl with glasses behind the counter tells him to put them in the window, but he stares at it, realizing nothing's gonna fit in there. He's got so much treasure, he has no idea where to even put it. Just as the glasses girl is about to mock him for being clueless, a massive bag of mana stones comes pouring out. Now it's her turn to be speechless. The guild doesn't even have enough cash to pay him, so he has to wait until tomorrow. Right then, the class rep and the girls get back from registering. What nobody expected was that these young girls are all over level 30. Instantly, the local adventurers start showing them some respect. I guess in this world, strength really does the talking. Now it's finally our MC's turn. Since the girls became adventurers so easily, his registration should be a total breeze, right? Finally, he can say goodbye to being a nobody. Our guy walks in with his head held high. The class rep had high hopes for our guy, since they only made it to town safely because of his protection. But unfortunately, the higher the hopes, the harder the fall. The staff told him that since he's not even level 10 yet, he doesn't qualify to be an adventurer. Being just one level short completely crushed his dreams. But rules are rules. Even with him on his knees begging and crying, there was nothing they could do. Besides, only adventurers in a party get any slack on the level requirements. For a solo registration like his, you have to be at least level 20 to become an adventurer. Now he's totally hopeless. Level 20 feels a million miles away, and his loner skill makes it impossible to join a party. It's like the world is just out to get him. Is he really destined to be alone forever? Seeing him so depressed, the class rep decided to take charge and lead the group. By nightfall, they finally reached the inn the guild recommended. Our guy was stunned by the flashy, high-energy vibe of the place. As the staff came out to greet them, he couldn't help but wonder if this was some kind of Isekai love hotel. But he was totally dreaming. Once he saw the interior, he realized it really was just a normal everyday inn. Everyone fell asleep pretty fast, except for him. Even though the bed was comfy, he found himself missing the feeling of living in the forest. By the next day, the class rep did some digging and found out this town is actually pretty safe. There are all sorts of shops too, so it looks like the girls are finally settling into town life. Our guy was planning to take his money from the magic stones and head back to the woods. But it turns out the guild still didn't have all the cash ready after a full day. Since he brought in way too many stones, the guildmaster asked if he'd be okay with being paid in installments. Even so, the first payment he got was a whopping 8 million. He's finally hitting the jackpot, and honestly, his haul was about more than just magic stones. Even the rewards for taking down that magic wolf were included. Now that they're loaded, the class rep is taking everyone out on a shopping spree. Just then, the red-haired guy leaned in all mysterious and asked, "You've never been to that kind of place, have you?" He called it a place full of a man's romance. Between bros, you don't need many words to understand our guy's first thought was definitely a club full of hot older women. He acted like it was a bad idea, but his body was honest enough to follow right along. Turns out the red-haired guy just took him to a weapon shop. So that was his idea of romance. Our guy felt a massive wave of disappointment. The shop specialized in weird items from the dungeon. Even though the owner looked like a dried-up old prune, he was actually a really nice guy. Since he was already there, our guy figured he might as well look around and pick out some stuff. Once he started looking, he was blown away. Suddenly, he wanted to buy everything in sight. Before long, it was night again. He managed to score a necklace called the 7-branch ornament. He noticed it had the same description as his villager set, and after asking around, he found out why. This thing lets you stack the abilities of different items onto one, making it a multi-purpose tool. Just as he was brainstorming how to use this awesome find, the class rep popped up again and asked, "Are you trying to steal our stuff? Man, if only your level was higher, you could have hunted more monsters." It was already late and everyone else had headed off to bed. Acting like a total mom, she ordered him to go to bed right that second. But he was holding a parasite vine and begged her to let him test it out first. Out of nowhere, the item started glowing on its own. It scared the life out of him and ended up fusing all the items he just picked out into one. Our guy was stunned, but the shop owner was absolutely fuming. You see all those items added up to a value of over 10 million. Hearing that completely broke him. After the red-haired guy and the class rep did some serious begging, they finally talked the price down to 8 million. Just like that, the 8 million our protagonist worked so hard for is completely gone. In the blink of an eye, he's back to square one, totally broke. Without his adventurer status, he can't even use his pass to leave town. Even if he tried to sneak out by hiding among the girls, the class rep would snatch him up and drag him right back in a heartbeat. Now he can't earn any money and he's stuck in town. He's starting to miss his forest more than ever. Luckily, he's got a massive stash of items on him now. Thanks to some earlier crafting, he managed to give this cloak the power of invisibility. Decked out in his invisible cloak, he activated his presence masking and stealth skills. He slipped right through the crowd of girls, made it out of the inn, and finally breathed in that sweet air of freedom. He thought he was finally home free as he reached the city walls and leaped into the air. But out of nowhere, one of the girls called out to him from behind. He lost his focus, couldn't stop his momentum, and slammed his crotch right into the stone wall. Man, you can practically feel the pain in his junk just by looking at him. He never imagined he'd run into those female classmates in a place like this. Back in school, these girls were known as the infamous Brainless Four. But then he suddenly noticed that one of the four was missing. Usually the answer is closer than you think. Sure enough, that last girl from the class was right there shopping at a stall nearby. And she was practically half naked, showing off way more skin than she should. I remember back in school she always had a thing for, well, running around in her birthday suit. The group rushed over to stop her. After our hero gave her a piece of his mind, she just sat there on the ground pouting like a kicked puppy. He felt bad and had to go over to comfort her, telling her that the outfit actually looked really good on her. But thanks to the 4 heavenly kings butting in his first escape plan, was a total bust. The next day, the class rep got everyone ready to head out for their very first mission. Since he tried to make a run for it yesterday, the class rep banned him from joining the group today. But honestly, that was exactly what he wanted. He slipped on his invisibility cloak and just strolled right out the front gates easy as pie. His beloved forest was finally within reach. But man, the road was a total nightmare. First, he hits a rundown village and then a pack of goblins shows up. Next thing he knows, he sees a carriage getting held up. He heard someone screaming for help inside, and for a split second he actually thought about helping out. But in the end, his desperate urge to just go home won out over his better judgment. He didn't want any part of this, but these thugs must have had a death wish. Since he'd seen them, they decided he had to go. Honestly, he was just done with this crap. Like seriously, he just wanted to go home. Who did he piss off in a past life? The robbers thought he looked like a total pushover and weren't about to let him walk. So our guy had no choice but to throw hands, or rather, magic. He launched a fireball that nearly sent those idiots straight to the afterlife. Whoa! That move totally blindsided them. He finished it off with a style that was just perfection. Too bad these guys were tanky as hell and still standing. They pegged him for a squishy mage and tried to close the gap, but he just dropped them like it was nothing. One of the thugs managed to gasp out, Are you really a mage or something?" He accidentally let it slip that he didn't even have a class. The whole gang just stood there completely floored. Since regular attacks weren't cutting it, they decided to pull out the big gun's weapon skills. Our hero knew those were high-tier moves only for players over level 20. And the crazy part, once you trigger the skill, your body just goes into autopilot. Luckily, these guys were all show and no substance. Their skills looked flashy, but they couldn't land a single hit on him to save their lives. Before long, the 3 of them were completely gassed out. Our guy basically won by just standing there. That's when the noble girl from the carriage stepped out to thank him. She introduced herself as Marielle. He really didn't want to get sucked into any more drama. All he wanted was to get back to his forest as fast as humanly possible. But then Marielle drops the bombshell. She's the daughter of the local lord. Our guy had just finished trashing that town, calling it a total dump without holding back a single bit. He had no idea she was the actual princess of the town he'd just been roasting. Hearing her beloved home getting dragged like that turned her pride into pure awkwardness. She just stood there looking completely mortified. He didn't even notice her mood shift and just kept rambling on like a total airhead. The girl was fuming inside, but she wasn't about to start a fight with someone that strong. So they started heading toward town in the most awkward silence ever. It was a long trek, and having him there was definitely a relief, but her ego was absolutely crushed. Her sense of superiority had been tossed out the window, leaving her feeling frustrated and totally stuck. And the kicker. The carriage was heading straight back to the very town he'd just escaped from. Just like that escape plan number 2, officially a fail. Meanwhile, the Muscle Squad was gearing up for a showdown with the delinquent gang. But just as they were about to throw down a mysterious stranger, suddenly appeared out of nowhere. The punks saw this guy as an easy target and rushed him, but they were basically just delivery boys for their own beatdowns. He wiped the floor with them in seconds. Seeing this terrifying powerhouse, the Muscle Squad didn't think twice, they just hauled tail and ran for their lives. But the stranger leaped across the field and landed right in front of them. He started walking toward them, dragging a massive greatsword, but he didn't actually strike. When the Muscle Squad finally caught a glimpse of his face, they were so shocked they couldn't even form words. Our hero had no clue what was going down in the woods. As the sun set, he ended up right back in the city, literally crying his eyes out the whole way. Hearing him bawling like that, Mariel figured he must absolutely despise the town if he was this desperate to get away. Honestly, Mariel's heart took like 10,000 points of emotional damage right there. She had no idea what part of her dad's land could have possibly pissed him off this much. Seeing her start to tear up, he totally folded. He had no choice but to just go along with whatever she wanted. After living in a cave for who knows how long since he got his prank skill, walking into her house was a massive shock. He'd never seen such a fancy place in his life. Man, the rich really do live differently. The house was so big, it made him super uncomfortable, and he just kept pacing around the living room like a nervous wreck. He tried to make a break for it, but before he could even reach the door, Mariel snatched him right up. Seriously, she was gone for 2 seconds to change her clothes, and he was already trying to bolt again. Mariel was huffing and puffing like a literal steam engine, her lip pouting so hard it nearly hit her nose. There was no way she was letting his little scheme slide. As the lady of the house, she'd already laid out a massive feast ready to treat our hero to a meal he'd never forget. If he just walks out now, where is she supposed to put her pride? The moment he saw that table full of food, our guy started shoveling it in like he hadn't eaten in 500 years. Meliel started questioning her whole existence. She's a major VIP and a total knockout, yet this guy only has eyes for the snacks. Then she had a servant bring out a bag of rewards and placed it gently in front of him. Knowing he was off the grid, she even got him a special black gold ID. It even has the town's name engraved on it. With this, he can come and go as he pleases. Meliel had just one request: she wanted him to remember the name of this town. Too bad he completely ignored her. His mind was 100% on the food. Being ignored like this? Yeah, that was a first for Meliel. She'd even dressed up special to host him today, but she never imagined she'd lose out to a bunch of appetizers. The next day, the MC got cornered by his female classmates for an interrogation. Even though he explained he was at the Lord's place last night, the class rep and the girls were focused on something else. Like, what exactly did he do to get invited? He definitely couldn't mention his escape plan, so he just played dumb to everything. After finally getting through the interrogation, they got ready for their next mission. Before leaving the class, Rep begged him over and over not to run away. He agreed way too fast, and the second they left, he was ready to make his move. Now that he has an ID and the girls are gone, nobody can stop him. But before heading out, he planned to use his reward to buy some decent gear, grab a good meal, and leave a letter for the class rep. Once everything was set, he made it through the city gates smoothly. Thanks. All right, the next steps were already planned out. Our guy made it safely into the woods. The familiar mushrooms, the river, even those goofy goblins, it all felt so refreshing. But just as he was thinking about his cozy little home, a wild boar monster suddenly appeared behind him. With his current power, a single light tap was enough to knock the beast out cold. A monster like that should have been deep in the forest, but he didn't have time to overthink it. He was feeling pretty good about his strength, especially after combining all those items. The MC was basically playing with cheat codes now. He had every ability under the sun. After checking his stat panel, he kept moving, but then he spotted a clear pool of blood on the ground. He couldn't help but think of the nerd group and the muscle group. Plus, those delinquent kids hadn't come out of the forest either. A bad feeling started creeping up on him. No time to waste, he immediately activated his enemy tracking skill. A set of footprints appeared before him, and that gut feeling only got stronger. The atmosphere in the forest felt off. If a fight really broke out between the groups, things would spiral out of control fast. He gripped his weapon and picked up the pace. The blood trail led straight toward the camp. With every step, his anxiety grew. He had to get there before it was too late. He couldn't let anything happen to them in these woods. Catching his breath, he sprinted forward at full speed. He could faintly hear the sounds of a struggle. His biggest fear right now, that the muscle group and the delinquents were tearing each other apart. Talk about a worst-case scenario. Soon enough, he found the muscle group up ahead, and they were badly beaten. Pure rage boiled up inside him. He clenched his fists, ready to go for revenge. But then he noticed the muscle group guys were still barely clinging to life. So he started dumping healing potions on them like they were water. Thanks to his powers, the buzzcut guy finally started to wake up. When he heard the girls had made it safely to town, he let out a huge sigh of relief. But then, almost like he was giving his final words, he asked the MC if they'd actually contributed anything to the class. I mean, that was a given. They talked until nightfall, and the MC finally learned exactly what had gone down. The rest of the muscle group woke up too. They'd been completely crushed by some mysterious figure, even their weapons were snatched away. The buzzcut guy had already guessed who the mysterious guy was after next. Lure him away, Guodaji. Danny Yenuoyenuji Obaguru Desijita made Oba. After all, the class rep has that snatch skill. If the mystery man gets his hands on that, he'll be absolutely unstoppable. The MC and the nerd group were supposed to be the only ones who knew, but turns out the muscle group knew too. Since the mystery guy was desperate to find the class rep, the buzzcut guy managed to piece the secret together. The only reason that guy beat them within an inch of their lives was to use them as bait to lure out the class rep. Buzzcut figured that out, so he did the exact opposite of what the guy expected and headed for the MC's cave. He knew the blood trail would lead the MC right to them, and with him on their side, they could definitely win. But right now, our guy was actually feeling a bit hesitant. As a loner, as long as he stayed out of this mess, he wouldn't be in any danger at all. But he did have one condition: he was going to fight this battle solo. The muscle group was stunned. I mean, teaming up would give them much better odds. There was no reason to take such a huge risk. But seeing the determination in his eyes, they were left speechless and decided to follow his lead. The MC then gave them their orders head back and regroup with the class rep. Even though they didn't like it and didn't really get it, the muscle group decided to do exactly as they were told. After they left, our guy felt a little bit of a heavy heart. Sure, having backup is great, but if they all got wiped out, the class rep would be in real trouble. Now he had to use every second he had to get even stronger. Little did he know, back in town, the class rep is frantically searching everywhere for our missing hero. The other girls aren't worried though. They figure he'll be back in no time. Meanwhile, our guy has already started his preparations. He heard from the muscle heads that weapon skills are incredibly powerful, but there's a catch: once they're triggered, they can't be cancelled. So now he's got to find a way to counter those skills. Right then, a pack of goblins shows up drawn by the scent of blood. They're mostly level 19, which is way higher than where our hero is at right now. But hey, if he wants to level up, he's just got to suck it up and dive in. Even after taking down those goblins, his level hasn't budged at all. He desperately needs a tougher opponent to serve as his next big XP farm. Right on cue, his protagonist's luck kicks in, and a massive goblin king appears. This is exactly what he was looking for. Compared to a regular goblin, this king's power is on a whole different level, and even its attack patterns are totally different. Thanks to his cloak's evasion buff, he's able to narrowly dodge the king's heavy-hitting attacks. This confirms one thing for him. Even if that mysterious guy uses a weapon skill, this cloak might just let him scrape by. But actually landing a hit back, that's going to be the real challenge. So he decides to test out a new trick. He uses Mana Wrap and starts stacking every single one of his skills into his staff all at once. In a flash, the Goblin King gets absolutely one-shotted. His confidence skyrockets. All that experimenting in the woods finally paid off. Now he finally has a way to fight. But before he can even celebrate for 2 seconds, an even scarier enemy pops up. A level 50 Goblin Emperor sneaking up behind him out of nowhere. This is like facing a raid boss in the starter zone. Remember, our guy is only level 9. Even for a pro, this power gap is insane. There's no running away, so he's got to try that same trick again and hope for the best. He fuses all his skills into his staff, creating a brand new move called Phantasm. Betting everything on this one shot, he charges in at top speed. Unbelievably, the strike actually knocks the Emperor down, but it didn't deal a single point of damage. The Emperor gets right back up and slashes him across the cheek. Who would have thought this monster could actually use weapon techniques? He finally manages to land a solid hit, but then get this. The damn thing starts regenerating its health. It even knows to attack during the opening when he's charging his skills. This just went from bad to life-threatening. But now's not the time to mope. He refuses to let it end here. With his life on the line once again, how is he going to pull through this? Picking himself back up, he lets out a roar and charges straight at the Goblin Emperor. The battle rages on until dawn. As the sun finally peeks over the horizon, he finally hits level 11. Completely exhausted, he stumbles back to the base to get some rest. After that brutal fight, he didn't just level up, he mastered a new skill, and finally understood what that useless ability actually does. Sure, his base level goes up slowly, but learning new skills is a breeze, and leveling those skills up is even easier. He's already got teleport down to a science. Since it has 0 cast time, it's the perfect counter for anyone using cheat abilities. Meanwhile, that mysterious guy followed the trail of blood and is now standing right outside the base. They finally come face to face, and the mystery man's identity is finally revealed. Turns out it's Tanaka, the most forgettable guy in the delinquent crew. He's been playing the victim and biding his time, all just to become the strongest of them all. Back at the town, the girls just finished their quest and are heading home when they run into the class rep and the muscle squad at the gate. They hoped our hero was with them, but no such luck. When she hears he's out in the forest fighting all on his own, the class rep can't hide the worry on her face. Deep in the forest, Tanaka starts spilling his whole twisted plan. Turns out he was the one pulling the strings, getting the delinquents to attack the class. And get this, he's already wiped out every other guy except for the thugs and the muscleheads. Tanaka doesn't even see our hero as a threat. He's ready to just walk away and go hunt down the class rep. But do you really think he's gonna let him just walk against a monster like this? The fight is about to kick off. Let's see how this goes. The tension is through the roof. Our hero makes it clear even if he's just an outcast, he's still got things worth protecting. Tanaka just smirks at that. Fine then, he decides he'll just finish off our guy personally. In an instant, his power level absolutely explodes. He reminds him that back in that white room, he checked all the leftover skills, and they were straight garbage. That's why he's so sure our hero is just a useless loser. He then summons a cluster of rocks and triggers his skill, Mockery. Tanaka is ready to finish our hero off right then and there. Meanwhile, the class rep finds out he's fighting solo in the woods and tries to bolt over to help. But the muscleheads block her path. They tell her to chill. Our guy is definitely going to be fine. Going there now would just distract him. So the class rep is forced to stay behind, praying he makes it out in one piece. Right now, our hero is struggling to move because of that tease skill. Tanaka sees him dodge the last attack and cranks his magic output to 11. But the MC dodges every single blast one by one. Tanaka is absolutely losing his mind. He really thought the MC was just some trash mob, but he's actually been hiding a serious ace up his sleeve. Before the final blow, Tanaka is dying to know. Exactly when did he start suspecting him? The MC just shrugs. He knew something was fishy from the very start. I mean, think about it. Why would a lone wolf genius like him ever hang out with a bunch of low-life thugs? That kind of sharp intuition. Even Tanaka has to give him props for it. But the MC has a question of his own. He wants to know exactly when Tanaka started cooking up this twisted plan. The guy spills it. He's been working on this in the shadows for a long time. He starts bragging. As long as I use those brainless idiots as my pawns, I'm gonna become the strongest person in the world. With a wave of his hand, he binds the MC with magic and hurls a massive fireball right at his face, 20. But he feels something is off immediately, so he hurls another fireball just to be sure. But get this, the MC just absorbs that fireball magic like it's absolutely nothing. The only reason he's still standing is thanks to that mistletoe he fused to his wand earlier. Mistletoe is a magic-absorbing machine. Before Tanaka can pull any weapon skills, the MC lunges to take him down. But the guy summons a massive greatsword and blocks the strike cold. Looks like he had a backup plan after all. The only reason he hesitated was because he couldn't decide which weapon to use to kill him. He's got an entire arsenal of badass weapons, and honestly, he's done choosing. He decides to unleash everything he's got until the MC is begging for mercy. He starts cycling through weapons like a total madman. Ha ha ha! Tanaka laughs as the MC scrambles to dodge. Our guy can't keep up with the changing styles and starts losing ground fast. But after a few minutes of intense clashing, the MC finally spots the catch. He realizes Tanaka has a mimic skill. And he figures out the real prize Tanaka is after the class rep's snatch ability. He wants to evolve Mimic into Snatch and steal her powers for himself. Now that his plan is exposed, Tanaka pulls out a scythe and goes on a wild offensive. The MC finally gets an opening to get close, but Tanaka uses a phantom dodge. Suddenly, the MC ducks and weaves, avoiding every strike with ease. Turns out that struggling act was all fake. He was just baiting the guy into getting cocky and leaving a massive opening. Now he's the one running the show. He was playing possum the whole time, and Tanaka fell for it hook, line, and sinker. He calls him out that Mimic skill only has 3 charges. Tanaka instantly loses his cool. He can't wrap his head around it. Why can't he land a single hit on this guy anymore? This wasn't how it was supposed to go. The MC was only holding back to find the weakness in his copying ability. After that clash, he's got Tanaka's number. As long as he keeps dodging, he's got this in the bag. Even with his secret exposed, Tanaka still thinks he's got the edge. He's got more weapons than he knows what to do with. But he didn't count on one thing. The MC is already used to his speed. He lands a heavy blow right to Tanaka's chest. It doesn't matter how many skills he has. The MC is totally in control now. Tanaka is getting pushed back hard, but the slimy snake has one last card to play. He starts spamming distraction attacks to throw the MC off. Death sentence. The fatal instant kill strike hits the mark perfectly. The MC drops to his knees instantly. Tanaka steps out from the shadows laughing like a maniac. He finally did it. Tanaka is so hyped up that he slams his foot down on the MC's head. He starts grinding his heel into him. But just as he turns to go, find the class rep, a voice calls out from behind. Is that the best you can do? Tanaka is stunned. How is a level 11 still alive after taking an ultimate move like that? The MC explains it's his healthy skill. It treats instant death as a status effect and just wipes it away. Plus, he's dumped all his points into luck, so he's basically immune to cheap shots like that anyway. That whole dying act, just another bait to force Tanaka to waste his ultimate move. Tanaka is totally breaking down. The MC was hit by T's. He should barely be able to move. How is he so relaxed? Our guy just smiles and asks, "Hey, do you even know what the wood dummy skill is actually for?" But Tanaka just scoffs. He thinks it's a garbage skill that only total losers would ever use. Little did Tanaka know our boy was actually using that wooden man skill to hijack his own body and force it to move. And those skills that looked like complete trash? Yeah, it turns out they're actually lifesavers. Tanaka was losing his mind. He had all these god-tier skills, so how the hell was he losing to a loser like our guy? He swung his weapon like a madman, but our boy blocked every single strike. At this point, he'd completely snapped. All that time spent scheming, and it was all going up in smoke. Our boy looked him in the eye and told him straight, "Sure, back home 1 + 1 always equals 2. But in a world of swords and magic, that kind of rigid math just doesn't fly. In this world, the answer is always more than 2, because this is a place where unknown variables change everything." This logic completely shattered Tanaka's tiny world. Before getting summoned, his life was a total drag. School was a joke to him, and he thought everyone around him was a low IQ moron. He hated every second of it and couldn't wait to just get out of there. So when they got transported to another world, he was absolutely hyped. The second he saw that skill board, he figured he could finally ditch his boring life if he just played his cards right. He spent all his time calculating every possible scenario, until he found the perfect formula for his future. Even if that formula meant he had to take out his own classmates, he didn't care. In his head, if he just stole everyone's cheat skills, he'd be the ultimate invincible god of this world. But fate had other plans, making him lose to some trash-tier loner. He lunged at our boy in a blind rage, but in a split second, his weapon was slapped right out of his hand. Thinking the fight was over, our boy stepped in for the finishing blow, but he walked right into Tanaka's trap, a face full of hidden poison powder. Now, that's what I call a high-stakes battle. If you're enjoying the showdown, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for more. Even though he took a direct hit, our boy is like a cockroach. No matter how hard you hit him, he just won't stay down. He managed to smack the glasses right off Tanaka's face and used a clever feint to finally take him out. Looking down at the defeated Tanaka, our boy just gave him a look of pure disgust. Suddenly, a crowd started gathering. People were gasping, and it was clear that nobody was going to show Tanaka any respect ever again. Our boy walked up and told Tanaka that even garbage skills have their place. He might not have any broken cheat abilities, but he knows exactly how to make those useless skills work for him. That's the real secret. He might have won this time, but he knew damn well that if he'd slipped up even once, he'd be the one in the dirt. Now that the wooden man effect was wearing off, all that suppressed pain and damage started hitting him all at once. Between the injuries and burning through his mana, he was running on fumes and couldn't hold on much longer. Just as he was about to pass out, the Geek Squad suddenly showed up. Turns out they'd been busy raiding the dungeon. When they got back to town and heard the news from the class prez, they rushed straight to the forest to back him up. With the geeks escorting him, our boy finally made it back to the safety of the town. Seeing him alive and well, the class prez finally let out a huge sigh of relief. But then he got swarmed by all the girls. For a guy who loves being an outcast, this was basically his worst nightmare. Even the jocks came over for some high fives. While the gurus and the geeks were busy apologizing to each other, our boy decided to pull a disappearing act and head back to his cave in the woods. But the class prez was too fast for him. She caught him red-handed and pulled him into a massive hug. "Haruka, you had me worried sick. Welcome back, Haruka-kun. Everyone come here, he's back." Our boy heard her voice and figured he'd made her cry again. But for once, she wasn't crying. She was just happy he was safe. Though that didn't mean he was getting off scot-free. A massive lecture was definitely coming his way. The girls literally picked him up and carried him off. Our boy realized that in the end, he was no match for a group of determined high school girls. Later that night back in town, he had a really strange dream. Deep in the heart of the dungeon, he saw a mysterious figure trapped in the shadows waiting for someone to come and save them. When he woke up, he felt a bit uneasy, but he just shrugged it off and didn't think much of it. He dragged himself out of bed early and headed to the tavern where the Geek Squad was already geared up. Lately, they'd been hitting the dungeon harder than ever. They were on a mission to wipe out every monster in sight. Sure, they wanted levels and gold, but their real goal was a legendary treasure, a rare item that supposedly makes people like you more. Honestly, that's the perfect loot for a bunch of socially awkward otakus. But let's be real, our boy isn't much better, so he's not really in a position to judge. He kept his mouth shut while they headed out, and that's when he started plotting his next move. They were all fired up, but as far as he was concerned, his job here was finished. He didn't have any reason to stick around town anymore. The forest was calling his name, and his heart was set on his cozy little cave. He just wanted to go back to his peaceful life as a loner. Too bad his plan was about to get shut down before it even started. A chilling, ominous vibe started creeping up from right behind him. The class rep was glaring holes into the back of his head, looking like she had enough pent-up rage to take him out 100 times over. She clearly wanted a chat about what happened earlier, and man, she looked absolutely livid. Our guy didn't dare act like a clown anymore. Shaking like a leaf, he timidly handed over the cash. He really didn't want another earful. After getting back yesterday, those girls had already ripped him a new one. But unfortunately for him, he was being way too naive. The lectures from the other girls were nothing compared to what was coming. He hadn't experienced a one-on-one sermon from the class rep yet. Seeing the fire in her eyes, he could already picture his own funeral. She demanded to know why on earth he'd do something so incredibly dangerous. She warned him never to pull a stunt like that again. Just those 2 sentences were enough to crush his heroic spirit instantly. His knees buckled as if they had a mind of their own, and he dropped into a full-on kowtow. Seeing how sincere he looked, she finally decided to cut him some slack. At least that's how he saw it. To him, the class rep was 10 million times scarier than Tanaka. Psychological damage is way more brutal than any physical hit. Right now, he only had one problem: how to avoid her nagging while still finding a way to sneak back and live in the forest. Just then, something the Geek Squad said popped into his head, giving him a sudden spark of inspiration. His eyes sharpened as he got ready to move. I mean, wouldn't he'd much rather live that sweet, heroic lifestyle. Maybe if he got his hands on that specific item, he could finally do whatever the hell he wanted. No time like the present, he headed straight for the forest to start his treasure hunt. Meanwhile, over at the Lord's Manor, Mariel brought her brother a nice cup of hot tea. With the monster population exploding lately, her brother's workload had become a nightmare, forcing him to pull all-nighters just to keep up. Right then, a soldier stationed at the dungeon burst into the room. Apparently, a massive swarm of monsters had suddenly appeared near the entrance. Our guy had no clue things were going south and was just casually strolling toward the dungeon. Suddenly, his presence detection skill went off, picking up a really nasty vibe nearby. He spun around and lo, and behold, a massive boar king and his pack of goons were standing right there. But hey, he isn't the same weakling he used to be. He figured he'd use these monsters for a quick warm-up. At that exact moment, over at the Adventurers Guild, the guildmaster was just about to ask the class rep to handle the local monster problem. That's when Mariel rushed in, frantic to tell them about the full-scale monster invasion. Things were looking grim. Word was that several villages had already been completely wiped out. Hearing that the adventurers couldn't just sit around, they geared up to move out immediately. To keep everyone safe, the class rep knew she couldn't just stand by either. She hurried to tell the rest of the class, only to realize that our main guy had vanished, again. Little did she know he was currently busy trading blows with the Boar King. To anyone else, these things were nightmare fuel. But with just one slash, the boars were literally deleted from existence. Not even a scrap was left. He noticed there were a ton of them, but honestly, he didn't give it a second thought. Back at the town gates, the guild members were armed to the teeth and standing guard, determined not to let a single monster slip past. Too bad their little stakeout was a total waste of time, because our guy was already going ham on the Boar King. Once he realized normal hits weren't cutting it, he just cranked up the power and took the beast down without breaking a sweat. Looking at the endless sea of boar monsters, he was a bit confused, but his top priority was still finding that rare item. He reached the dungeon in no time, and the place looked exactly like something straight out of a light novel. He couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement. He strolled through the place like it was his own backyard, poking around and stumbling onto quite a few treasure chests along the way. Sadly, most of the loot was just literal garbage and scrap metal. He wasn't interested in that junk at all. After spending forever rummaging through the place, he still came up empty-handed. He was starting to wonder if this dungeon was actually just a glorified landfill. Then he remembered the skeleton shopkeeper, so he decided to head back and get some real intel on the place. By now, it was pitch black at the town gates, and the guards were still waiting for an attack that never came. Just as everyone started thinking it was a false alarm, they saw him slowly walking up from the distance. Seeing the crowd gathered there, he actually thought they were throwing some kind of bonfire party. When the class rep told him they were guarding the town, he didn't dare mention what he'd been up to. But when he heard the monsters they were worried about were just those boars the dots finally started to connect. When he casually mentioned he'd already taken care of all the monsters by himself, everyone's jaws just hit the floor. He'd wiped out every last enemy in that one fight. Everyone was stunned by such overwhelming power, especially when he said it, he treated the whole thing like it was just a game. That flippant answer made the girls absolutely furious. The class rep marched right up and slapped him hard. She screamed at him, reminding him he'd promised not to do anything reckless ever again. "But no, you just had to go off and play hero," she yelled. Sure, he'd technically saved the day, but because he went rogue, he still wasn't going to escape the massive lecture heading his way. Right now, he has to just kneel there and take it too scared to even look up. Then the president fills everyone in on the monster situation. Seeing how their numbers are spiking, she's got a hunch. That legendary monster raid everyone talks about. It might actually be happening. She gives our guy a stern warning. "I don't care how strong you are, don't go doing anything reckless." That night, he's just lying in his dorm bed staring at the ceiling. He realizes he's in a tight spot, and it's not just the girls in class. Even the president and Marial are breathing down his neck 24/7. Finding that special item isn't just a goal anymore, it's an emergency. So first thing the next morning, he hightails it to the item shop. The moment the owner sees him, he practically has a panic attack. The old man is terrified he's going to start fusing everything in the shop again. It's only when he hears the kid just has some questions that he finally stops holding his breath. He tells him the rare item you're looking for is called the pheromone ring. Just from the name our guy knows, this thing is going to be a game changer. He desperately asks where it is in the dungeon. I mean, he's been in there a bunch of times, so why hasn't he found it yet? The owner just sighs and says, "Well, duh." A top-tier item like that isn't just sitting in some hallway. It's in the parts no one has ever touched. Word is, it's hidden way down past floor 50. See, this massive underground labyrinth is rumored to go down a full 100 floors. But for your average adventurer, getting to the deep levels is way harder than it looks. Every major floor is guarded by a floor boss. If you can't take them down, you're not going anywhere. Hearing this, our guy starts cooking up a plan. His level is still pretty low, but he figures he's got to go for it anyway. Without that ring, he'll never escape the constant surveillance. The owner also warns him to stock up on healing potions. Down in the depths, the monsters get way more aggressive. If things get hairy and you run out of supplies, you're toast. He thanks the owner and starts grabbing everything he can. Watching him walk away, the owner has a bad feeling that something big is about to go down. Our guy is already at the dungeon entrance, ready for a new challenge. If he can just get past those bosses, that legendary ring is as good as his. That dungeon is wrapped in legends and full of mysteries that still haven't been solved. So if anyone's crazy enough to explore it, they better have enough potions to survive. Hearing that, he heads straight to the general store to stock up. Little does he know, his little chat with the owner was being eavesdropped on by some local nerds. They run straight to the girls and spill the beans. And honestly, the girls are actually pretty touched by what they hear. But now that the cat is out of the bag, they can't just sit around and do nothing. Everyone is genuinely worried about whether he'll make it out alive. The rest of the girls are getting even more freaked out, thinking this can only end in disaster. They all agree on one thing: they have to stop him from finding that ring no matter what. While he's on his way to the dungeon, he suddenly feels this really creepy, ominous vibe. He whips his head around to see what's up, only to find his classmates staring him down like hawks. He still has no clue that his secret has already been leaked. He tries to play it cool, thinking they're just there to train. But the class rep isn't about to let him off the hook. She just comes right out with it and exposes his secret about the ring in front of everyone. Our guy is absolutely floored. He tries to save face with a total garbage lie, saying he was actually looking for Solomon's ring. You know, so he can talk to animals better. Obviously, nobody's buying that fairy tale. Looking at their skeptical faces, he realizes there's no way he's talking his way out of this one. So he just turns tail and runs for it. The guards at the dungeon entrance didn't stand a chance against that massive crowd of students. With the class rep and the others hot on his heels, he's terrified they'll snatch the ring if they catch him. He grits his teeth and kicks it into high gear. The class rep is screaming at him to stop warning him about the deadly traps in the dungeon. But since he thinks his luck is already maxed out, he's not even breaking a sweat. But man, talk about jinxing it. Literally a second later, he steps right onto a hidden trap. A wall next to him suddenly blows open, and before he can even react, he's falling into the dark. The class rep tries to grab him, but she's just a split second too late. They're all left standing there, forced to watch as he disappears down the hole. After falling for what feels like forever, he finally sees a faint light down below. Realizing he's about to become a human pancake, he uses earth magic on the ground to soften his landing. He's got no idea where he is, and looking at the dark tunnels, he's terrified to move. He tries to use his skywalk to get back up, but that's just for walking on air, not scaling vertical walls. But then out of nowhere, he awakens spatial mastery and trap detection skills. I mean, that second one would have been great 10 minutes ago, but now it just feels like too little too late. Still better late than never. He fires up both skills to scan the entire layout of the labyrinth. To his shock, he's tumbled all the way down to floor 101, a hidden level. The bosses here are on a whole different level of scary, but he's got no choice but to keep moving. The tunnel is thick with fog, and these creepy blue ghost fires keep popping up everywhere. Standing before a massive set of doors, he feels a wave of dread. He gathers his courage and pushes them open, and immediately this crushing, terrifying aura hits him. Inside those doors is a skeletal remains. It's the legendary Labyrinth Emperor himself, and his level A terrifying 100. Meanwhile, the class rep and the others have made it to floor 47, but there's still no sign of him. The guys figure he probably didn't use a teleport gate to get this far. After all, he'd have to clear the levels from the top down. All they can do now is pray that his luck holds out just a little longer. The otaku guys are sweating bullets, worried he's gonna run into that legendary Labyrinth Emperor. They have no idea he is already face to face with that monster. The more they think about it, the more terrified they get. They're almost ready to call it quits, but then they remember how hard he fought to protect them before. The rest of the group has united once again, deciding to head to the deepest part of the dungeon to bring him back. But right now, things aren't looking nearly as easy for our hero, facing the labyrinth. King is pure pressure. All of the boss's stats are marked as unknown, and its race is at the absolute highest tier. This level of power is straight up broken even for another world. But even against the ultimate cheat boss, our guy isn't shaking in his boots. Instead, he gears up for a close quarters attack. The Labyrinth King blocks it without breaking a sweat. Facing that kind of god-tier speed, our protagonist isn't just not scared. His whole body is actually trembling with excitement. He immediately tries a feint technique, but the boss ruthlessly shuts him down again. It might not be working yet, but he's slowly beginning to see through the Labyrinth King. He's starting to figure out exactly how that monster's abilities work. He's convinced that with his next strike, he can definitely crush him once and for all.